Next step communications from the Source are your point of connection with the work of the Source to build the heaven life was meant to be. I'm Sherry Daniel. I'm the director of the Heaven Project and the founder of the Miracle School. Next Step Communications is sponsored by the Miracle School, which is a source-directed, miracle-based training program for spiritual activists. This source communication is part of the Live Heaven Spiritual Coaching Series, which is source-directed, miracle-based spiritual coaching that empowers you to live the adventure that manifests the heaven of true happiness. Before we get underway, let's talk a little bit about how to work with this source communication. This source communication conveys the source perspective on the state of the world and on the source solutions that can transform life into the heaven of true happiness that it was created to be. As the manifestation of the Source who incarnates in order to help beings to transition into a life that is heaven, I help you to think through what is needed to make this transition and access the miracles that will help you to bring the picture into sharper focus. Transformational energies are transmitted through this source communication, through the sound of my voice, through the written word, through the source drawing that is the background for the slides, and through other source drawings used to give you a glimpse into the spiritual level of reality as the source sees it. To benefit from these energies, you need to listen with your heart and ask to awaken to the heaven that your life was meant to be. In this source communication, the focus will be on providing you with spiritual life coaching that will help you to know how to work with the puzzle piece miracle to assemble the picture of your personal heaven and the picture of heaven for your community, one puzzle piece at a time. So let's begin by talking about the puzzle piece miracle. The puzzle piece miracle enables you to participate in a source-directed manifestation process that manifests the heaven of true happiness in your life and in the world. As you assemble each puzzle piece, you are transitioning your life out of the suffering, scarcity, and struggle of a story way of life into the joy, abundance, and adventure of a heaven way of life that is built around the personal life adventure that the Source creates for you. When you have assembled all of the puzzle pieces for the picture of your heaven, you enjoy living heaven in your everyday life. Let's talk about manifesting happiness in your life. Everyone in the world is trying to manifest some measure of happiness for themselves. How happiness is defined and how it is pursued differs according to whether you're working with the goals and methodologies of a story way of life or a heaven way of life. In the next step video entitled The Most Important Decision You Make in Your Life, I provide you with an overview of these two ways of life. In this puzzle piece video, I'm going to provide you with a more in-depth source perspective on the methodology used by those pursuing a story way of life and a heaven way of life. I'll begin with a brief overview of each way of life and then provide you with some source drawings that will enable you to see how the underlying methodologies play out in a person's life. In a story way of life, you structure your life by your personal story about who you are and what happens to someone like you. Your personal story references your cultural story, which defines what is allotted to you in your culture given your age, gender, race, socioeconomic group, educational level, wealth, etc. People in a story way of life set out to secure for themselves the material possessions, social connections, and life experiences that go with their personal story. Through a series of source drawings, I will show you what this looks like on the spiritual level of reality to the source. In this source drawing, you can see a being, which is represented by the blue sphere, connecting to the source, who is represented by the white sphere. The white arrow represents the love that the source is sending to the being that sustains the life of the being. This particular being is at a very base level of connection to the source, where his basic orientation is the greed-need motivation. He's trying to harvest the source for whatever he can get, giving as little as he has to give in order to make the connection. This is why the arrow that represents the energy that he's sending toward the source is black, which means that it's very low vibrationally and full of selfish and harsh energies. This being is operating from a story that he created for himself. This story is symbolized by the orange circle around the being. This is a story about who he is and what he thinks someone like him has to have to be happy. This story generates a field of fragmentation around him that attracts other beings who are also fragmented and looking for someone to harvest. This field of fragmentation becomes his harvesting net. He draws into the net what he desires and attaches to it to harvest it to satisfy his greed. This kind of low vibrational attachment technology leaves him open to being harvested by what he attaches to. If he attaches to another being, then that being can counterattach and harvest him, which is the meaning of the two-sided arrow in the drawing. If he attaches to money and other material possessions, the negativity, which is the criminal element that operates on the inner plane, can work through these attachments to harvest him in ways that far exceed what he will ever gain from his own meager harvesting attempts. The same is true in attaching to social status and achievements in the ego that is built from this. If he attaches to spiritual achievements as a sign of self-worth, this can also open him up to the harvesting operation of the negativity, who promotes the development of a spiritual ego and attachment to social status in the spiritual traditions. The spiritual traditions have themselves become a cultural story that dead-ends beings in a connection to a concept of the source that blocks their real connection to the source. In the end, all these attachments pull him in different directions, fragmenting his spiritual energies and causing the disease of fragmentation. Finally, the disease of fragmentation ruptures his connection to the source, and the being disintegrates on a spiritual level. This means that the soul of the being becomes unlinked from the suit, causing spiritual death. The suit becomes an empty suit. While most beings don't take their story way of life to this extreme, it is often not the most criminally inclined who self-destruct in this way, but often the most ambitious. The ones who believe that if they attach to more and more people and things, that they will finally achieve their goal of true happiness. They don't realize until it is too late that when they have too many attachments, these attachments fragment them to the point of spiritual death. In a spiritual death, who they are as a spiritual intelligence loses its link to the suit, leaving the suit open to be inhabited by entities who are the ones who, in the end, enjoy the wealth or social status that the being achieved in his life. The being watches helplessly from the sidelines, disconnected from his own life. This is like building a beautiful house and then getting kicked out on the street and watching a group of marauders partying in your house, enjoying everything that you built for your own enjoyment, while you do without and lack the means to ever build another house. Once you lose your link to your suit, you can't ever achieve anything because you lack the suit through which you would have to work to achieve it. Such empty suits are often in places of power and authority in the society because their ambition has carried them to this level of achievement. These suits, which are countermanded by the negativity, often spearhead wars that take killing to an extreme, as in the case of genocide. In short, the story method of accumulating the things that are believed to add up to happiness sets the stage for the ultimate unhappiness, even in those who are trying to maintain a focus on more positive attachments. The problem is that attachment technology is dangerous. After you reach a point of critical mass with your attachments, you fragment to the point of complete spiritual annihilation. And attachment technology doesn't add up to a well-organized life. People attach to all kinds of people and places and opportunities and events and end up with puzzle pieces that don't fit together to form an integrated picture. There are gaps in their picture where the puzzle pieces from one aspect of their life don't fit with the puzzle pieces of another aspect of their life. When a person can't bring together their personal story, they often try to change their story to make some other story work better. The end result is the rupturing of many lives as people break apart the picture of the story happiness they were creating to try to go out and get other puzzle pieces to try to make yet another version of the picture work instead. For example, when a couple is unhappily married, they often break the marriage to try to attach to someone else to see if this attachment takes and they get the happiness that they desire. When a person attaches to a career choice and they are unhappy, they often try to attach to another career choice, often with as little wisdom behind their choice as was exercised in the first choice. The problem isn't in changing course, but in the use of a personal story as the guide and attachment technology as the methodology to effect the cure. In the end, what they attach to counterattaches to them and furthers the disease of fragmentation. Now let's take a look at the methodology that is used to secure happiness in a heaven way of life. In a heaven way of life, you turn to the source to create for you a personal life adventure that structures in all of the experiences that add up to true happiness for you and for all others. Once you have your life adventure, you travel a path of miracles, along which you find the treasures of heaven, which are the puzzle pieces that you assemble into the picture of your heaven. You also work with others to find the puzzle pieces that together you assemble into the picture of heaven for the universal community, which encompasses all of life throughout the creation. You don't have to know what puzzle pieces you need, or even how to find them. You follow the clues on your life adventure, and everything is revealed as you travel your path of miracles. The Source is your guide and coach on this adventure, helping you every step of the way. Now let's take a look at what a heaven way of life looks like on the spiritual level of reality. In this Source drawing, you can see a being who's depicted by the blue sphere in the middle, surrounded by the purple circle, who's connecting to the Source depicted by the white sphere to the right. In this case, the being is connecting to the Source at the highest level of the love connection. This is symbolized by the white arrow going to the Source, which represents the genuine love of the being for the Source. The being is surrounded by the energy field of Source care, which is the purple circle. When the being's only focus is on the love connection to the Source, then they become suffused with Source love, which flows through them to the Source and fills up the field of energy around them. This Source love becomes the supporting spiritual structure for the love-based relationships that they have in their life. Into this field for love-based relationships, others can come to be with them in a love-based way, honoring them and nurturing them just as they nurture these other beings. These other beings are represented by the other blue spheres. The key is that none of these beings are attaching to one another and trying to harvest one another. Instead, they are respecting the love given by the Source and remaining Source-connected while relating to one another in a Source-guided way. They cherish and nurture one another out of their love for the Source who loves all beings. They see this nurturing as an opportunity to express their love for the Source by caring for the beings who the Source has created and loves and wants to enjoy the comfort and happiness of a love-based community. They don't follow rote, socially approved ideas of how to nurture one another. Instead, they nurture one another by following very precise inner Source guidance with regard to what is right action in the moment. This enables them to avoid getting entangled in the shoulds of the story world and enables them to see clearly what is right in the moment. This is how relationships in the 14 prototype communities that exist in different parts of the creation never devolve into guilt-tripping, manipulation, dependency, and the like. Each person does what is theirs to do in their mission for the day, and this guides them to interact with others in the community in a way that is in keeping with their missions. In this way, one person's mission doesn't throw off another person's mission. All of the mission work of the day is choreographed by the Source so that every being can achieve the highest level of heaven that can be built in the day, while being supportive of everyone else's work. The puzzle piece miracle provides the puzzle pieces for these choreographed social interactions that add up to the heaven moments that make up every day. Only the Source with its simultaneous consciousness can design and implement such a complex choreography at the social level. But since the only way for heaven to manifest is love-based relationships at the social level is for the heaven experience to be given by the Source for each and every moment of this experience, individual beings do not try to impose their idea of what should be happening on the process, but instead become what is needed to become like the DNA of life on the social level. If you think about it, the biological DNA has to operate within very precise parameters created by the Source to produce a new life that is well formed without any biological mutations. The Source designed life in the social arena to operate according to the same logic. Beings were designed to remain neutral, Source-directed, and poised to do right action, which is the social counterpart of the precision work of the biological DNA. When beings engage in right action from a place of unattachment to the outcome, then each right action becomes a puzzle piece that completes the picture of their personal heaven and of the heaven that is enjoyed by the community. In this way, they can relax and flow with whatever right action is their next step, knowing that in doing so they are contributing to the heaven that they seek to manifest in their own personal life and in the world. Right action makes for moments of priceless, perfect interactions, real love exchanged, real nurturing that helps the being to evolve, and in beautiful heaven moments of celebration, as well as well-orchestrated teamwork. It also sustains an undisturbed connection to the Source through all of it. This is in contrast to what happens in the story world. In the story world, when you love someone, you tend to ignore others who are not as valued by you, and you often nurture in ways that you think will be helpful, but which may crush parts of their spirit that you don't understand, and you get so involved in your focus on them that you only remember that there even is a Source for a few minutes of your day, if even that. This is how fragmentation sets in. The very act of trying to make heaven happen by living a story you have in your mind of how things should be bonds you to this story and cuts the Source out of the picture. This is the disconnection that leads to fragmentation. The only way out of it is to understand why it is important to let go of not only your attachment to the people and things of the world, but your attachment to your personal story about how life should be. In the story world, each person is encouraged to develop a story about the character that they are in the cultural play and to play out what happens to a character such as them. Their attachment to the story they have fabricated for their life is the final attachment that needs to be released if they are to enter into a storyless relationship with the Source, where the flow of what happens in their life is initiated by the Source, giving them the heaven experience, which will contain new and exciting episodes that they can't possibly have imagined or practiced in advance. It is within this love-based context that a being can access the puzzle piece miracle and work with it to assemble the picture of their personal heaven, and can work with other beings to assemble the picture of heaven for the universal community. Now let's take a look at the miracle tool that heaven agents use to work with the puzzle piece miracle. Heaven agents working on transitioning their personal lives in the life of the universal community into a heaven way of life, work with this miracle tool. This graphic has been linked to a miracle that has transformed it into the Heaven of True Happiness grid. When it is linked to this miracle, different squares in the grid will light up, indicating which puzzle piece is ready to come into manifest form. As you welcome in these puzzle pieces, they manifest in your life. As you can see from this graphic, the different aspects of a heaven way of life are the 5 heaven projects. These projects are perfect health, total abundance, love-based relationships, and life purpose fulfillment. All 4 of these projects draw power from the central project, which is the project to develop the love connection with the Source. Only through developing this love connection is there power to develop heaven in the other 4 aspects of the heaven way of life. This is true if you're working with the grid to manifest heaven in your personal life, and if you're working with the grid with a team of heaven agents to manifest heaven in the community. Now let's look at how you can work with the grid to assemble the picture of your personal heaven. As you begin to work with the grid, puzzle pieces arrive in whatever aspect of the grid they are needed. They arrive in accordance with what you need next on your life adventure. For example, perhaps you have a need to experience the direct love of the Source in order to catalyze your work to develop the love connection with the Source. A puzzle piece to help you have this direct experience might arrive in the love connection part of the grid. Along with it, other puzzle pieces might arrive that help you to release any negative and erroneous concepts you might have about the Source that might block you from developing the love connection. With the puzzle pieces that arrive, your suit begins to get free of story ideas about the Source and begins to open the door to learning directly about the Source from the Source, rather than accepting hearsay from others who say they know the Source, but who may be only reiterating cultural stories about the Source that have been handed down through the generations. These spiritual cultural stories are often erroneous and become an obstructive filter through which your suit sees the Source. Getting rid of the cultural filter is an important first step to developing the love connection. Once there is a beginning level love connection with the Source, the love connection part of the grid begins to generate power for the work that will go on in the 4 project areas of the grid. Next, the puzzle piece miracle might send in puzzle pieces to help you begin on your path to total abundance. It might send in a puzzle piece that opens up an economic opportunity for you so that you can improve your financial prosperity. It might send you a couple of puzzle pieces to help you learn how to become what is needed to support the work of the Source, so that you begin generating the material energy that is needed by the Source to ground the miracles that make your life heaven. Next, the puzzle piece miracle might send you puzzle pieces into the life purpose fulfillment part of the grid to help you to realize who you are as a unique spiritual being and to help you understand your mission in this life. As you bring who you are and your individual life purpose into focus, it may begin sending you puzzle pieces in the love-based relationship section of the grid. These puzzle pieces may help you resolve conflict in important relationships in your life and learn how to open the door to real love, rather than the kind of pseudo-love that plagues many relationships that are founded on agreements to gratify one another's greed-driven personal stories. At any point, the puzzle piece miracle might send you puzzle pieces in the perfect health part of the grid to heal your suit, which is your spiritual body and mind, so that it can regain its spiritual intelligence and its health, so it can continue on the path of ultimate spiritual healing. These puzzle pieces could alleviate the causal forces at the spiritual level of reality that cause mental, emotional, and physical illness to manifest at the physical level of reality. They can also help you to chart a course toward perfect health that is based on what you as a unique being really need in order to achieve perfect health. The important thing to note in working with the puzzle piece miracle is that whatever you really need to resolve any problem or to move forward into your transition into a heaven way of life is given to you by the Source as a puzzle piece that, when put into place in the picture of your heaven, completes an important part of the picture. The more puzzle pieces you put into place, the more heaven you have in your life. There's no problem or transition that is too small to be important. Just as a jigsaw puzzle requires all of the puzzle pieces, small or large, to complete the picture, so the picture of your heaven requires every single puzzle piece that is needed. Rather than trying to go out into the world shopping for puzzle pieces as people do in the story way of life, the Source gives you the perfect puzzle pieces that fit you individually and which are the ones that will complete the picture of your heaven. You don't have to suffer from the awkward situation that people in the story world end up facing when some of the puzzle pieces that they procure don't fit well with the other puzzle pieces that they have already assembled. For instance, a marriage may seem to fit their needs, but then the profession they choose requires long hours or travel, which disrupts and aborts the marriage. They may make choices in their life that they later regret, causing them to go through an expensive upheaval that disrupts their family and work life, fundamentally, in order to go in another direction which may or may not really be fulfilling once they've invested in it. People spend many years of their lives pursuing the mirage of story happiness, only to find that when they secure what they think will really make them happy, it ends up opening a door to an even greater level of unhappiness, and even to a fear of trying again to search for happiness. Many people have settled for unhappy lives and have joined the Ain't It Awful Club, where they commiserate with one another about how bad things are. This becomes their more easily controllable form of happiness because they can predictably have things to grouse about, but it is far harder to have things to be truly joyful about and to truly celebrate. When you are focused on working with your life adventure to receive the next puzzle piece, which is itself a miracle manifesting in your life, you walk a path of love and hope, and you experience the excitement and the wonder of a child, opening to an ever-expanding adventure. You don't have to worry about whether you are making a choice that will lead to unnecessary suffering in your life or in the lives of others, because the puzzle pieces are Source-given, and they always assemble easily into the picture of your personal heaven, and the picture of heaven for your spouse, your family, and your local, global, and universal community. This doesn't mean, however, that every puzzle piece will bring you instant joy. Some puzzle pieces are given to you to help you work through issues that are blocking you from attaining ultimate happiness. While you are facing the challenges that these puzzle pieces bring to you, you may get in touch with a deep sadness, or an unresolved rage, or a dysfunctional behavioral pattern that is blocking your progress. If you remain neutral, committed to doing right action and becoming what is needed to deal with the challenge at hand, then you will be guided by the Source to remove the obstacle and to gain speed on your path to true happiness. The Source doesn't give out puzzle pieces to you individually that are not also a part of the big picture of heaven for the creation as a whole. What this means is that you can have the joy of assembling the picture of your personal heaven with everything that you need in it, and knowing that in completing the picture of your heaven, you're also helping to complete one aspect of the picture of heaven for the universal community that only you can build. In the picture of heaven for the universal community, your picture of your personal heaven is just one square in that big picture. But when you assemble your square, you help to complete the picture of heaven for the entire universal community. This is your contribution to the happiness that all beings feel when the picture of heaven for the universal community is complete. There is no personal or cultural story picture that can match the beauty of the completely integrated picture of heaven for the creation as a whole that the Source creates. In fact, in the story world, the picture of the happiness for the community is often assembled at the expense of the happiness of many individuals in the community. For instance, the community may decide to gain greater wealth and power by starting a war. This may mandate that a whole generation of young men fight in this war. Their personal happiness is sacrificed as they experience the horror of war and often die on the battlefield in the worst conditions for a successful spiritual transition at death. War also destroys the personal happiness of the civilians who are injured and killed in the war. While the community as a whole may benefit from having procured more territory or wealth at the expense of other communities who have been defeated, it is also at the expense of the personal happiness of most of the individuals within the community. This doesn't happen in a source-created life adventure, which provides individuals and the community with life adventures that are in harmony with one another, where the life adventure of an individual is an integrated part of the life adventure of the universal community. In this way, the community can nurture each individual within the community without sacrificing any of the needs of the community as a whole. In a story world, the economic story of the culture is predicated on certain races and socioeconomic groups suffering at the bottom of the economic ladder, while others gain wealth far greater than they can ever even enjoy. Many lives are sacrificed so that some lives can experience disproportionate material pleasures and privileges. This is not what happens in a heaven way of life. Every life is important to the happiness of the community as a whole, and so it is nurtured by the community so that it reaches fulfillment. There are no throwaway beings who spend their lives toiling in jobs that no one else wants to do and are ground under by the privileged few who keep them locked up in places of economic misery. The other aspect of what it means to work with a puzzle piece miracle is that it isn't hard to tackle all of the problems in your life and all of the problems in the creation as a whole. The methodology of working with the puzzle piece miracle is the same for assembling the picture of your personal heaven and the picture of heaven for the community. All you have to do is to learn how to work with a source to assemble the puzzle pieces, and then the miracle of heaven manifests in your personal life and in the community. This takes away the fear of trying to take on a problem and feeling burdened by being responsible for knowing how to bring forth a solution. People in the story way of life generally prefer to screen out most of the variables that affect the outcome for any given situation because they don't want to deal with the complexity. It makes them feel inadequate. So they agree to see only a partial picture and to all agree that their partial solutions are the best that can be had, and then they feel in control of the situation, in spite of the fact that their solutions turn out badly in the long run compared to a source solution that is comprehensive and draws on miracles to enable a heaven outcome to manifest. In a heaven way of life, the source has already created the solution, and you just have to open up to receiving the miracle of the puzzle pieces and working to put them into place in your life. In a later part of this source communication, I will walk you through just how you receive a puzzle piece and put it into place in the picture of heaven. But for now, let's return to understanding how to work with the grid. In looking at the graphic, you can see that at this stage of the work with the grid, you're just beginning to receive some of the puzzle pieces that make life heaven. Your life is improving, but you haven't as yet transitioned any significant aspect of your life into heaven. Wherever a puzzle piece has come into place, you have heaven, but other puzzle pieces are needed to complete a larger section of the picture so that more of your life is an experience of heaven. For instance, you might be transitioning into more love-based relationships, but have more puzzle pieces that are needed before any particular relationship is fundamentally transformed. As your work with the puzzle piece miracle progresses, you begin to complete larger sections of the picture of your heaven and of the heaven for the community. There is still much more work to be done, as you can see, many more puzzle pieces that need to be assembled, but at this phase of the work, you are experiencing the joy and fulfillment of true happiness in significant aspects of your life. For instance, you might have achieved a much deeper level of the love connection, which is filling you with a sense of well-being. You might have opened up a whole vein of prosperity in your life, built a whole new level into your relationships, discovered yourself and developed your skill sets to live your mission in this life to a much higher degree, and crack the code on a significant aspect of perfect health, perhaps by resolving a long-standing source of anger or fear that had been having a deleterious effect on your health as a whole. At this phase of the work, you have successfully assembled all of the puzzle pieces and completed the picture of your personal heaven at level 1. What this means is that in every aspect of your life, you are experiencing the heaven experience, which is the experience of true happiness. Once all of the puzzle pieces are in place, you shift from transitioning into a heaven way of life into living heaven in your everyday life, enjoying the heaven that you have manifested. Now at this point, the puzzle piece miracle builds on the foundation of happiness that you've established with a level 1 picture of heaven by sending the puzzle pieces that will take your experience of heaven to a level 2. The new puzzle pieces are represented by the blue squares. These puzzle pieces deepen your love connection with the Source, which then enables you to build a more intensely fulfilling level of abundance in your life. A greater sense of who you are leads to greater life purpose fulfillment. Your connections with other beings begin to become richer and more nurturing, and you begin to heal at a more profound level. As you complete assembling the picture of your heaven at a level 2 heaven experience, the puzzle piece miracle begins to send you the puzzle pieces for a level 3 heaven experience, which is an even more intensely beautiful and exquisite heaven experience. As you achieve a level 3 heaven experience, you're ready to begin working with the puzzle pieces that take your heaven experience to a level 4. Since there is no limit to the heaven that the Source can create for you, there's always a new, more exciting, and more wonderful heaven experience available to take the adventure to the next level. In this way, you will always have, in all of your incarnations throughout eternity, a level of the heaven experience that is more amazing and more challenging than the experience of heaven that you've had before. Since, in your life adventure, the focus is on learning how to become love in action and express your love for the Source and all of life, and to experience the love of the Source for you, there's no greed or need driving your participation in the adventure. You do not attach to what is given to you, but instead flow with the experiences and enjoy the heaven that the Source is making possible for you, while working with the opportunity that the Source is giving you to manifest the unique aspect of heaven that you alone can build in the world. When you build this heaven, you not only achieve life purpose fulfillment, but you experience the joy of the Source and the joy of your fellow heaven agents who celebrate the heaven that you've brought into their lives, which wouldn't exist if not for your skillful use of your unique miracle-based abilities to bring it into manifest form. As you achieve higher and higher levels of the heaven experience in your personal life, this takes the picture of heaven for the universal community to a higher level as well. All beings working together to get to the higher levels of the heaven experience is what enables the picture of heaven for the universal community to reach its highest level. Rather than beings trying to restrain their aggression and selfishness, in the context of a heaven way of life, there's no motivation or drive to be aggressive or selfish, since cooperation and nurturing of all of life is what leads to the highest level of happiness for every member of the community. This is why in the prototype communities there's no competition or warring amongst them. A significant part of their personal happiness is based on the picture of heaven for the community that every member of the community helps to assemble. They therefore have no motivation to discriminate against or compete against any other member of the community, since this is counterproductive and only yields an incomplete or less powerful picture of heaven for the community. A person who is downtrodden or deprived of community support brings forth an incomplete picture of heaven for themselves, and this means that there's a hole in the picture of heaven for the community. Or they might only remain at a level 1 heaven when the rest of the community is manifested a level 3 heaven. This means that the complete experience of a level 3 happiness for the community can't be achieved. The community puts the energy that in a story community goes to competing and excelling at the expense of others into nurturing every life so that it has what is needed to achieve the greatest level of personal happiness and fulfillment. In a heaven way of life, the energy that in the story world goes into competitive sports, for instance, goes into supporting and celebrating the achievements of all beings in reaching their highest level of life purpose fulfillment. There are no winners and losers. There's only a community of beings who love one another and wish the highest level of happiness for one another. In a story world, there's a general belief that excitement and drama is generated by conflict and danger. This is why entertainment features movies and plays and TV shows that center on war and crime and the tangled web of tormented human relationships. In a prototype community, the excitement and drama of their life is in rising to the challenge of bringing forth the heaven that is possible in each moment, and supporting one another to achieve this. This creates peak experiences for all concerned that have no negative emotional energy in them. The focus is on celebrating together the heaven that has been brought into the world. This is in sharp contrast to what happens in the story world, which in many competitive events focuses on stroking the ego of the winner while also harvesting the entertainment value of the negative emotions experienced by the loser. In the story world, when an individual fails to compete in the overall story game of fitting in and living up to the expectations of the society, shaming and punishment are often their lot. Prisons are filled with people who are thrown away by the society, rejected because they lacked what they needed to live a balanced life. Since most of these people are people who have been abused as children or who have grown up in underprivileged social environments, the shaming and punishment is only adding to the harm that the social order has already done to them already. The end result is prisons that are schools for criminals, and a society beset by vengeful people who wish to even the score through further acts of violence. In a prototype community, the approach to dealing with an individual who is having trouble bringing forth their personal heaven is entirely different. It's understood that shaming and punishment is completely counterproductive. Instead, the community rises to the challenge of finding out what the individual needs and taking it upon itself to provide more resources or to even change the way the society functions so that this individual can thrive within it. There is never a focus on controlling and suppressing the individual to protect the society from their need for a different kind of environment. The understanding is that each individual is a flower of heaven that the Source has created. If the social field is not conducive to this flower growing to fruition, then the field needs to be cultivated in a different way so that this flower can thrive. This may require changing many things in the social order to achieve this, but this is the challenge and the opportunity for the community as a whole. They respond to this challenge by seeking the puzzle pieces that are needed to bring about the necessary change, rather than to risk the loss of this beautiful flower of heaven that the Source has created and brought into their lives. They understand that only when the individual has what is needed to thrive, that the aspect of heaven that this individual was sent into the community to build can be built. They therefore, out of a profound love for the Source and appreciation of the wisdom of the Source in sending in this life into their care, nurture the life and help it to reach fruition. Members of the community are neutral, committed to doing right action and becoming what is needed, and seeing where it leads, anticipating that the design of the Source will enable heaven to manifest in the best way possible. They support one another out of genuine love and respect for the miracle of each life, and out of their desire to express their love for the Source and their appreciation for the opportunity to live in the heaven of a love-based community. There's no achievement motivation as a source of self-esteem, as there is in a story way of life, where people who are mistreated and abused long to establish self-worth through gaining social approval for their achievements. In a prototype community, each being feels profoundly loved and cared for by the Source, and they nurture one another out of the fullness of their joy in experiencing life and celebrating the miracle of Source love that flows through them to all others. This is why the prototype communities work together daily to find the puzzle pieces that are needed for the picture of heaven for the community. They recognize that only when the picture of heaven for the community is completed at successively higher levels will they have the context in which to experience the highest level of happiness in their own personal lives as well. But beyond this, they feel a great joy in bringing through the heaven that is possible in the community. It absorbs the energies that in a story world go into competing and oppressing others, and then dealing with the aftermath, which is war and crime and domestic violence and child abuse, and then all of the work that goes into healing a suit from this experience of lovelessness and trauma. In a prototype community, there isn't any trauma. Their cooperative way of life frees them from the trauma of illness, crime, scarcity, betrayal, war, conflict, fear, lovelessness, and meaninglessness. They live in a profound state of inner and outer peace. Now that I've explained the overview of what's possible when you receive the miracle of the puzzle pieces, let's take a look at exactly how you can work with the puzzle piece miracle to receive the miracles and assemble them in the picture of your heaven. The way to learn how to receive the puzzle pieces that the Source is sending you and to work with them to manifest the picture of your heaven is to get trained and equipped to participate in a Source-directed manifestation process. Getting trained and equipped happens in the context of an ongoing adventure training program that provides you with group coaching through webinars and intensives in Seattle and Maui, and individual coaching via phone, Skype, or in person in Seattle and Maui. Now let's take a look at the steps in the manifestation process. You begin by requesting a Source-designed coaching program, which will ensure that you are given the support that you need to do your part in the manifestation process that will enable you to transition successfully into a heaven way of life. You then prepare yourself for your manifestation work by completing the 6-step process that sets up the miracle-friendly conditions that have to be in place if you are to receive the miracles that make it possible for you to have a miracle-based way of life. Next, you sign on to the adventure. This provides the Source with the material energy needed to create a life adventure for you and to begin the work of guiding you and coaching you on your path of miracles. Completing the 6-step process and signing on to the adventure enable you to shift into right action mode. Right action mode enables your suit to restore its natural ability to instinctively respond to the cues of the Source to do right action. This instinctual response is akin to the instinctual response of migrating birds flying in formation. Once you are in right action mode, you can transcend the limited vision of the story world and see how to work flawlessly with the Source to contribute the puzzle pieces, which are your right actions, to the picture of heaven that you and others are assembling. It is only when you are in right action mode that it is possible to begin the work of transitioning into a heaven way of life through working with the puzzle piece miracle. Now you're ready to begin the manifestation work. Your first step is to work with the Heaven of True Happiness grid to see which square lights up. This is your next puzzle piece. Then you go to the Inner Plane Adventure message board to see what aspect of your life is represented by the puzzle piece that lit up. The Adventure message board is a miracle tool that gives you images, thoughts, associations, and other forms of information to help you know what is next on your life adventure. Then you board the Inner Plane Adventure Traveler, which is an energy vehicle that enables you to travel into the future of your life adventure, to see what your life will be like when this puzzle piece is put into place in the picture of your heaven. If you're ready to manifest what you see as possible for you, you make a decision to accept the puzzle piece. Once you make this decision, a heaven manifestation is created by the Source, which activates a manifestation process that will assemble the aspect of the picture of your heaven that this puzzle piece manifests. You work with the Outcome Activation app that is generated by the heaven manifestation to find out what you need to do to support the manifestation process. The Outcome Activation app is spiritual software that enables you to track the action in the manifestation process as the heaven manifestation begins to orchestrate the manifestation of the aspect of heaven that it was created to manifest. The app provides you with an inner plane information center where you can go to track the action and to receive source communications about what you need to do to facilitate the manifestation process. The app also provides your suit with the spiritual software it needs to support the manifestation process on levels that are beyond your conscious awareness. Many of the levels of your suit's consciousness that participate in the manifestation process are in your extended range, which is generally outside of your usual conscious awareness. The app provides your extended range with the technical information that it needs in order to know how to do its part in the manifestation process. This is somewhat like the billions of cells that make up your physical body. What you know about your physiological functioning is minute compared to the true complexity of the biological process that is maintaining your life. In a similar way, what you know about in your conscious range about the spiritual functioning that manifests outcomes in your life is also minute compared to the vast calculations and processes that are going on in the spiritual level of reality. The Source has designed the Outcome Activation app to provide you in your conscious range with information that you need to support the manifestation process on your level and to supply your suit in all of its subconscious processes of the extended range with what it needs to support the process as well. In this way, your suit is given training and support and up-to-the-minute reports about the progress of the manifestation process. You also get trained in your group and individual coaching sessions to follow through with your part of the manifestation process. In time, the manifestation process yields your successful transition into a particular aspect of a heaven way of life, and continuing manifestation support for the adventure of living heaven in this aspect of your life. The puzzle piece miracle then opens the door to other puzzle pieces that are needed to complete a level 1 experience of heaven. When you have built a complete level 1 heaven experience, it moves on to sending you puzzle pieces for level 2. This process is what I was demonstrating through the pictures of the happiness grid that I spoke of earlier. Since the adventure generates a limitless and ever-enriching experience of heaven, there is no limit to the number of levels of the heaven experience that you can enjoy. Throughout your work, I provide direct source support through the coaching program that enables you to learn how to understand the spiritual science of manifestation so that you can do your part in the manifestation process. As you do your part, you transition into an ever-deepening, enriching, and fulfilling experience of heaven. The heaven of true happiness is just one puzzle piece away. With each puzzle piece that you assemble into the picture of your heaven, you are manifesting the heaven of true happiness in a particular aspect of your life. With each puzzle piece that you assemble in the picture of heaven for the universal community, you are bringing in the heaven of true healing and true happiness into a particular aspect of life in the community. The puzzle piece miracle makes it possible for you and others in the community to do what would be impossible without this miracle, which is backed by the full power of the Source who wants you to have a life that is heaven. Manifesting heaven on earth, one puzzle piece at a time. With the puzzle piece miracle, it is possible to work together to manifest the heaven of true happiness on the earth and in the creation as a whole. The puzzle piece miracle provides a simple, step-by-step approach to tackling not only the most difficult problems in your personal life, but the most difficult problems faced by the global community and the universal community. For example, social groups that are often divided and in conflict with one another in the competitive story way of life work harmoniously with one another in a heaven way of life that centers on finding the puzzle pieces that manifest happiness for all. Children and adults can join together in a joyous and playful search for the puzzle pieces that are given to them on their path of miracles, instead of sparring in intergenerational conflicts. The puzzle piece miracle provides the structure for harmonious cooperation between the sexes. Males and females learn how to celebrate their source-given complementary capabilities that enable them to find the puzzle pieces and work together to assemble them into the picture of heaven for their marriages, families, and community. This is in sharp contrast to the war of the sexes that blights relationships in the story world. It unites beings who are very different from one another as they work together to find the puzzle pieces that build a love-based community that nurtures all of its own. This is in marked contrast to the fear and hate response to diversity that, in a story way of life, ignites war among beings of different species, races, and ethnic backgrounds. The puzzle piece miracle reunites beings with the source from whom they have become estranged by their inability to understand a being so different from themselves. It enables them to appreciate the love of the source that is behind the work of the source to create and sustain life in the creation. It reconnects you with your unique miracle-based abilities that enable you to experience the miracle that you are and to build the heaven that only you can build. It spares you from pursuing the mirage of story happiness until the days of your life are over, and you have missed the opportunity to complete the mission of love that brought you into this incarnation. It enables you to work in a team of heaven agents that is well organized by the Source to efficiently transition the world out of suffering into an experience of heaven. This is in contrast to the chaos in the story world created by many different groups trying to do good in the world and often sparring with other groups who are also trying to do good in the world but who are using different and conflicting methodologies. It empowers you and others to become source-directed spiritual activists, working with the miracles of the Source to transition life out of the suffering, scarcity, and struggle into the joy, abundance, and ease of a heaven way of life. Now is the time to take action while I am here on the earth to provide the source direction that is needed to mobilize the universal community to solve the problems that have plagued beings for thousands of years, and to realize the potential for a love-based community that nurtures all of its own. There is no greater opportunity and no higher calling. Now is the time to become love in action by learning how to work with the puzzle piece miracle to manifest the heaven of true happiness in your life and in the life of the universal community. Now let's take a look at a series of steps that you can take to begin to work with the puzzle piece miracle. If you are still undecided about whether to enter into a heaven way of life, the Universal Heaven Agent Network offers you a gifted coaching session to explore what it would be like for you to live a source-created life adventure. To request a gifted coaching session, you can go to www.themiracleschool.net/gifted coaching session. If you have decided to live the adventure, then your next step is to prepare yourself to embark on the adventure. This can be accomplished in 3 steps. Step 1 is to complete the 6-step process by going to www.themiracleschool.net 6-step process. As I mentioned earlier in this source communication, these 6 steps prepare you to enter into the miracle-friendly working relationship with the Source that enables you to receive the miracles that you will need on your life adventure. In step 2, you sign on to the adventure by going to www.themiracleschool.net/embark on the adventure. In this step, you receive your life adventure and begin working with the Source as your guide and coach on the adventure. In step 3, you request a partially gifted coaching session. The Universal Heaven Agent Network gives you the material energy for 50% of this session to help launch you on your adventure. You can request this partially gifted coaching session at www.themiracleschool.net/gifted adventure coaching session. Now let's talk about beginning work on assembling the puzzle pieces for the picture of heaven for the community. The way to begin is to join the Heaven Project that the Source has created to help beings throughout the creation transition into a heaven way of life. Once you become a member of the Heaven Project, you will be granted entry into the Heaven Project webinar series, which is where the spiritual activism causes are worked on by teams of Heaven agents throughout the universal community. You will be emailed Heaven Project news reports that are given only to those working closely with the Source on the Heaven Project. You will have access to high-power interplane source support for your solo Heaven Agent work and your team Heaven Agent work. You'll also be given opportunities to work with other Heaven Agents to generate the material energy needed to ground the large-scale miracles that transform life in the community. And you will be invited to participate in joint venture and truth campaign opportunities only available to those committed to working with the Source on the Heaven Project. You will be given an invitation to participate in special focus Heaven projects where you work closely with me and with other Heaven agents. And you will have the ability to attend Heaven Project conferences in Seattle and in Maui. You will have professional development opportunities that are only available to those who are members of the Heaven Project. You will be given a miracle link to the energy hub of the Heaven Project, which is an interplane spiritual engine that provides power to those working with the Source to build heaven in the world. And you will be given access to the Outcome Activation app for teamwork on the Heaven Project, which provides you with up-to-the-minute information on what is happening in the project and what you can do to contribute to it. To request membership in the Heaven Project, you can go to www.themiracleschool.net/join the Heaven Project. So let's take a closer look at how to contribute to the work of the Heaven Project. Once you've become a member of the Heaven Project, you're ready to begin your Source-supported work as a Heaven agent to assemble the picture of heaven for the community. You can help to assemble this picture through solo Heaven agent work and team Heaven agent work. So let's take a closer look at solo Heaven agent work. Sometimes you alone, given your unique Heaven agent abilities, can assemble a puzzle piece that you were created to put into place. You are, of course, always working with the Source who manifests support for your work through the extended and conscious range of my manifestation. To do this solo Heaven agent work, you can work daily with the Heaven of True Happiness grid. You can get trained and equipped through the coaching program in group and individual coaching sessions. You can follow the action in next step written communications from the Source, where you can participate in a Heaven Agent to Source dialogue about the work of assembling the puzzle pieces that manifest a heaven way of life. You can access this link at www.themiracleschool.net/written source communications. You can provide the material energy to ground the miracles that are needed for the community through financial exchanges and energy exchanges. Now let's take a look at Heaven Agent teamwork. The teamwork is triggered on the outer plane and carries on in your daily life as you work in both your conscious range and in your extended range to contribute the right actions that are the pieces of the puzzle that you need to contribute. You can do this Heaven Agent teamwork in webinars, in intensives in Seattle and Maui, in special focus team projects, through Heaven Project conferences in Seattle and Maui, through participating in the Heaven Agent eyewitness reports and next step written communications from the source, and through collaborative Heaven Agent work to provide the material energy to ground the miracles needed by the community. Manifest the heaven of true happiness in your life and in your world. Join in the work of the source to manifest the heaven that your life and all of life was meant to be.